So what I want to do in this next section, before we talk about the audit questions themselves, is just give you a little bit more background on the kinds of things that you need to do on your farm, the kinds of things that you would document in a farm plan for the audit. And again, what's important is that we tell people, make sure if you say you're going to do something, that you do it. If you say my sanitation schedule for my harvesting knives is every evening, then it needs to be every evening. If you're not going to do it every evening, you can do it once a week, write down once a week. Do things that make sense. Not only make sense from a sanitation standpoint, but also make sense from your ability to actually accomplish them. Because that's one thing, when the auditor comes out, the auditor's not really doing an inspection, the auditor's doing an audit. He's auditing your ability, first of all, to have a comprehensive farm plan, and secondly, your ability to actually carry out everything that you say you're going to accomplish in that farm plan. Okay. So these are just some issues that have come up in audits that we'll talk about, that will give you a little bit more. We're sort of getting closer and closer and trying to focus a little bit more on some of the issues here. So we'll start a little bit with the worker hygiene scenario. And the deal with porta potties is this: if you have access to a bathroom a quarter of a mile from the field, then you don't need a porta potty. If you have a field that's a half a mile away or a mile away, but there's either trucks going back and forth all the time carrying produce back to the pack shed, or workers have access to drive that vehicle back to the pack shed. You're going out to this field over here to harvest beets for an hour, and you're coming back to the pack shed. You're going to harvest corn for an hour, and you're coming back to the pack shed. You can have a discussion with the auditor about the need to be trailing a porta potty every place you go if you're not any place for a long time. In my particular case, my house, my greenhouses, my labor camps, and my H2A workers, and my interns, my pack shed are on a 2-acre piece of property. Okay? Each of the labor camps has a bathroom, the greenhouse has a bathroom, of course the house has bathrooms. Across the street is a 17-acre piece that I lease. It's within the first piece is within a quarter of a mile of the house. So I'm not going to need to put a porta potty over there, because not only is the truck going back and forth anyways, but it's close enough to get back and forth to if you need to. But now I've got another 40 acres or so down along the Merrimack River that's a half a mile to a mile from the house. And usually when we go down there, to harvest, we're harvesting multiple things. We're down there all morning, or we're down there all afternoon, or we're down there all day. Okay. Now, granted, vehicles are going back and forth all the time, especially during harvest season. But what you're trying to avoid is you're trying to avoid workers with a little water TP in their back pocket going down to the riverbank, or going behind a tree, or going somewhere where you know they can't wash their hands when they're done. And that's what we're trying to avoid, the convenience of having a porta potty there, so people will actually use it. And, you hate to say that this kind of stuff happens, but I mean, I would guess that most of us in this room have seen that, happen. So just something to think about. The old days, who ever thought, you thought about that, but you never really thought about that, the consequences. Maybe thought about your personal safety at that time if you didn't wash your hands. But maybe you really think about the fact that today I got a crew out there, there's 9 of us, and we're cutting 400 boxes of lettuce. Okay, and there's 24 heads in each box, and that's 10,000 heads of lettuce we're cutting. And there's 3 people cutting, and there's people packing, and there's people making boxes and carrying boxes out of the field. So one person who may be cutting is going to handle, 3,500 heads of lettuce. So you got to think about the consequences of all this. So porta potties in many cases are useful. They need to be placed in an area where they're not next to the field. Of course, you need to keep them clean. The service companies usually take care of them, but you have to monitor that. One of the little clipboards you have is monitoring the cleanliness of all your bathroom facilities. If it's used heavily, you may need to clean it more often. Some people try to resolve this problem by putting a porta potty on a little trailer, having it there, and just moving it around where they need to move it around. You see the hand washing station outside here. This is very important. And this is a purchased hand washing station. I actually bought one to bring here, and when I was up in Vermont a couple of weeks ago, I forgot it there. And I'm not speaking in Vermont again until next week, so my hand washing station's up in Vermont, so I couldn't show it to you. But these things are all very simple. There's a tank in the front, a tank in the back. The front tank is full of potable water. The back tank has the gray water. There's a little foot valve right there, and you put your foot on it. And you put your foot on it, an ounce of water comes out of the faucet. Put your foot on it twice, you get 2 ounces of water. There's a little soap dispenser there, just like you have anywhere else. And you have towels that you can pull down, and you have some place to throw the towels. I mean, that's a hand washing station. Some of them are handmade hand washing stations. You probably want to keep the porta potty a little bit away from the field. If it tips over, that's not a good place for it to spill. Okay, so back 15, 20 feet, maybe on the grass to the left here is a better place to put something like this. Again, just an example. I kind of like to have an open container to throw the trash in, because after I've gone through all the trouble of washing my hands, I hate to reach down and grab that bag to make it open and go in. So I'm not really crazy about the bag. This is a 2-person one. It's got 2 foot valves, 2 soap dispensers, towels in the middle, 2 faucets. It's a good design. The one that I bought is a 1-person. There was a guy at the New England Vegetable and Berry Growers meeting last year in Manchester. It was $300. I bought the one he had at the trade show. That's the one I have. So hand washing stations must be located outside porta johns, and a hand washing station should be located in the place where employees have access before returning to work. So one critical part of GAP is sitting your employees down and training them in worker hygiene. Providing signage, providing the right bathroom facilities. That's like 1/5 of GAP. Signs must be posted to encourage hand washing. If the station is near a building, be sure that the birds aren't hanging on the hand washing station. And wash hands properly, okay? So here's some homemade units. Here's an apple bin, and we'll talk about that. One of those little, $99 bathroom counters that you buy at Home Depot or something. This person happened to put a blue barrel in there collecting the wastewater. He's got a container top here. Obviously, this can carry a lot of water and wash a lot of hands. At the top, he's got a little sign there on how to wash your hands. He's got his towels, and he's got his soap, and he's good to go. This one is a little bit different, but same thing. And you see it outside the porta potty, so you get clean water up top, gray water at the bottom, and the facilities here. You can certainly make things. The thing I wanted to point out here, and this applies to everything, not whether you're just using a bin box. Bin boxes are great for this because you pick them up with the forks. Do them any way you want, okay? It's even better than a trailer. The problem is that once you dedicate that bin box to being a hand washing station, that bin box for the rest of eternity needs to be a hand washing bin box, okay? So you're supposed to take anything that you use on the farm for something other than what you're supposed to be using it for, okay? Like this bin box, or like you're using those, orange baskets to harvest peppers, but there's a few of them that you use to throw all the junk in at the end of the day, to go back and forth to the compost pile, have the rotten stuff. Maybe you found some rodent damage, you throw all that stuff in there, okay? You need to label those things as not for harvest, okay? And they have to be labeled, that's the key, not for harvest, because you don't want those things to go back out in the field without being clean. So once you dedicate something to a different use, you just mark it not to harvest it wherever you want. Like I said, a lot of times you're in a porta potty these days, it comes with an internal hand washing station, but you're not allowed to use that. There's a lot of good signage out there on how to wash your hands, and just on the idea of using a toilet rather than the TP in your back pocket out in the field. And even weird stuff that you might just laugh about. Some of these workers that come from other countries are used to not throwing the toilet tissue in the toilet because the plumbing can't handle it. Okay, so everything goes in the bucket next to the toilet. Okay, so you need to just be aware that these people are used to using a toilet, but not used to throwing everything in the toilet at the end. So sometimes you just have to educate them that this is the way we do things here, and make sure they understand it. Just other signage about employees washing their hands. It's like the old Bill Cosby thing when he's talking about getting his kids to take a shower, and he has to go right through everything. Like, you put the soap on, you wipe yourself, you scrub the soap around, make sure you wash the soap off before you dry yourself with the towel, those kinds of things. So just simple signage on just making sure you follow it. Some people require gloves. Some people require that you use a sanitizer on the gloves after you wash your hands, okay? But single-use towels, soap, potable water are key to all of this. And again, hand sanitizer can be used as an addition to, but not a replacement for soap. Proper hand washing reduces infection by 35 to 50%, reduces GI illness up to 80%. 20 seconds, as you see it clicking off here, is the ideal time. Take your pick. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, the ABC song, look at the second on your watch, but 20 seconds is your key time. Now 20 seconds is not the entire time that you spend washing your hands from the time you turn the water on, including the time it takes to dry your hands, but 20 seconds is the time the soap remains on your hands, okay? Okay, just general cleanliness, areas where birds roost should be covered. Any sort of these areas where there's wildlife or there's animals, you need to do your best to keep these areas clean, especially around a packing facility. This picture was actually taken at the New England Produce Center at the Boston Market Terminal. You know, not the cleanest place around, but you need to be conscious about that. Developing a system for maintaining cleanliness, whether it's your harvesting totes, maybe product boxes that you're selling product in, especially if they're reusable, the pack shed, the floor, the rafters where you might have birds' nests, rodents that might be around. Just general sanitation is important. Some sort of schedule of general sanitation is important. You know, and some people just do stuff, you know, without thinking about all of this. You know, we have a pack shed, we have one of those little lines, a little 4-foot conveyor belt, a little washing station with the brushes. You come out of the sponge donuts and you go on the table, and then we also have you know, one of these 100-gallon horse troughs that we use for the submarine zucchini because we don't want to scratch it, and we'll run 300 boxes of submarine zucchini through that every day, 7 days a week, even though it looks like the most archaic thing, but you don't scratch the squash. But you have an idea of how you want to clean that. You know, the line gets rinsed out at the end of the day, and all the catches at the bottom, get all the leaves and all the dirt out of them. You sweep the floor, you leave the pack shed clean. You know, our system is you put the zucchini in the tub. You know, various times you dump all those buckets in, and when the zucchini's done, empty the tub, wash the tub, fill it up again for the summer squash. Finish the summer squash, we dump it out. Do it for the hot peppers because we can't run the hot peppers on the line because they fall through the washing brushes. So we just have a system for doing things that we never really thought about over time, but it's a way to make sure that, number one, you don't have cross-contamination. Number one, you always have water that's a little cooler. And number three, you have water that's a little cleaner as a result. Again, if you schedule your audit and you forgot to see that bird's nest up in the rafters and the auditor comes into your pack shed and sees that, that's a big issue. Pack sheds don't have to be enclosed. The definition of a pack shed is any place that you go to on a recurring basis to pack. So if you get 4 wooden poles and a roof sitting over here, and you bring stuff underneath it to pack, whether it's summer squash or zucchini or you're bunching leeks or whatever, that becomes a pack shed. It could have completely open sides, but it's officially a pack shed. If you use a facility for storage, then you need to be able to close it down. And having doors that seal tight and having doors that mice and other animals can't get underneath becomes important. Not as important for the packing operation, but definitely important for the storage operation. So things that aren't allowed generally, eating in the field is not allowed, work is continued on the edge of fields. The reason for that, by the way, is the hand-to-mouth stuff going on, okay? People eating, putting their fingers in their mouths or near their mouths, and then going back and harvesting something. You know, that hand-to-mouth thing is very important. Picking up rubbish at the end of the day, keeping areas clean. Wood is something that you have to be conscious of. It's okay to use wood in the field, but wood in the pack shed is something you can't use. And the reason is it's hard to clean wood, it's hard to sanitize wood. In this particular case, there's a plastic bin to put the ice in, but the little area where the ice slides on when they're filling it up is made out of wood. And so, you know, it's probably good and strong, but in this particular case, you need to put a piece of plexiglass or something on top of it so that it's easier to keep clean.